In today's video, we're going to go over my 2025 Hall of Fame predictions. I'm going to go through each name on the list. I'm going to give my opinion if they're going to get in 2025 or not, or if they'll get in at a later date. Before we get into it, please keep in mind that these are just my personal opinions. So of course, you're allowed to feel differently. And with that said, let's get in the video. First up is Bobby Abreu. Now, will he be getting in the Hall of Fame in 2025? No, I don't think so. But he does have a good case to make it one day. He's just shy of 300 home runs, 2,500 hits, has a career batting average of 291, a lot of RBIs, 400 stolen bases, OPS plus 128. Now, when you think of Bobby Abreu, you don't instantly think Hall of Famer, but he's a guy that probably will get in one day, even though he's just not super popular. Abreu is also a player that doesn't really have a team. And what I mean by that, he played on so many different teams throughout his career. There's not really one team he kind of gravitates to or sticks to that can kind of campaign for him to get into the Hall of Fame. Next up is Carlos Beltran. He is another guy who doesn't really have a home. He's another guy that doesn't really have a team you can really pin him to because he played on so many teams throughout the years. But with that said, plenty of accolades in the trophy case, a 70 career WAR. He will get in the Hall of Fame. I just don't know in 2025. I still think writers are holding their biases against him due to his ties with the Astros in 2017, but he will get in eventually, just maybe not in 2025. Next up is Mark Burley, and I don't think he's going to get in the Hall of Fame in 2025. Probably not beyond either, but he could be a guy that gets looked at 10, 15 years down the road on the Veterans Committee that he may get in them, because by that point, people voting will have a modern pitcher in mind with those type of stats, and they'll look back upon Mark Burley and other pitchers in his era and be like, okay, yeah, he doesn't have 300 wins, but compared to today's pitchers, let's say in 2035, Mark Burley had a lot of wins, a lot of innings pitched, and he compares well against the modern pitcher in 10, 15 years from now. So who knows how it's all going to pan out, but I think Burley's case will age pretty well as the years go on. Carlos Gonzalez is next on the list, and he's the first guy who you can easily put in the Hall of Very Good, but easily he's not a Hall of Famer. After age 30, he fell off a cliff, and he didn't put up a lot of stats after that. Now, the Grandy man had a really good career. He's another Hall of Very Good player. He just falls a little bit short in a lot of categories that could maybe tip him into the Hall of Fame one day, but 1,800 hits, 344 home runs, and a career average of 249, I just don't think does it. Again, Hall of Very Good, but not Hall of Fame. Now, Felix had one of the best primes I'm probably ever going to see in my lifetime, but with that said, it kills me to say this as a Mariners fan. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, at least right now. If Felix maybe got that second Cy Young in 2014, maybe there's a better conversation to be had, but he doesn't have 200 wins. His career ERA is not as good as you think it would be. The last 5 years of his career really derailed his career ERA. And I know Felix played on teams with just horrible offenses. I know, I witnessed almost every game. Believe me, I know. But he just doesn't have enough here, sadly. So maybe one day he'll get in on the Veterans Committee, kind of like what I said with Burley. The biggest question for Felix in 2025 is going to be, is he even going to stay on the ballot? I feel like there's a world out there where he doesn't even get 5% of the vote and falls off of it, unfortunately. Now, Torrey Hunter is a very interesting case for the Hall of Fame. A lot of people just kind of wave their hand at him and say, no, he's not a Hall of Famer. But when you really look at his numbers compared to some of the guys that people are saying that they're Hall of Famers, I personally think Torrey Hunter's a Hall of Famer. I think there's a case to be made for Torrey Hunter, and he's definitely a guy where I feel like if a few other people get in, Torrey Hunter should get in also. I personally think Torrey Hunter's a Hall of Famer one day, but I don't think he's going to get in 2025. Now, Adam Jones was a really, really good player, probably one of the worst Mariner trades in Mariners history. Adam Jones and George Sherrill for Eric Bedard, what an awful trade. And even though Jones had a great career with the Orioles, he's not a Hall of Famer. Simply put, Hall of Very Good, but not Hall of Fame. And Andrew Jones is another guy who I go back and forth on. Is he a Hall of Famer? Is he not? Look, the guy has less than 2,000 hits, and he played forever. The back end of his career, a lot like Felix, killed Andrew Jones's career. I know he has 434 home runs, 10 gold gloves. Those are great accomplishments. I'm not taking anything away from him. So again, if Andrew Jones gets in, it's the whole kind of avalanche effect of if Andrew Jones gets in, then these other handful of guys really should get in too. Now, do I think Andrew Jones is a Hall of Famer in 2025? That is a truly up in the air proposition. I don't know. He's gotten pretty close over the last couple of years. I don't know what the voters are going to do. You can make the case that Jones is a Hall of Famer, and you can also make the case that he's just Hall of Very Good, and that's it. Now, Ian Kinsler had a really, really good career. Another guy, Hall of Very Good. One hit shy of 2,000, which would drive me crazy if I was Ian Kinsler. He's a really good second baseman, but I just don't think there's enough there for him to get in the Hall of Fame. Hall of Very Good, but not Hall of Fame. Now, Russell Martin was a really good catcher in his era, but he's another guy that I think just falls short, maybe falls into the Hall of Very Good, but not a Hall of Famer. Now, Brian McCann is a guy you can make more of an argument for. He was a top 10 catcher of his era, I would say, but at the end of the day, when you count all the stats up, he just doesn't quite have enough. He just doesn't scream Hall of Fame to me, and I don't think he'll get in 2025. Now, Andy Pettitte is a very curious case of, will he get in? Will he ever get in? Probably not. Now, he's a rare guy that fully admitted his use to steroids pretty early on. That really was never held against him after that. Here in the Hall of Fame voting, that obviously kind of is, because if he gets in, okay, does that open the door for other people? It's one of those tricky situations, so I don't think he's going to get in. But with that said, his numbers are very comparable to a guy who I think will get in, who we'll touch on in a moment. Dustin Pedroia was on track to be a Hall of Famer without a doubt. I just don't think there's enough there for him to get in the Hall of Fame, which is unfortunate because he was on track. So I don't think he's going to get in. Hall of Very Good for Dustin Pedroia. Now, this is a guy I've not thought of very much in a very long time, Hanley Ramirez. But even with that said, he had a really good career, just not a Hall of Fame career. Just short in every category you can ask for a Hall of Famer. Hall of Very Good, but not Hall of Fame. We're not going to spend much time on this one. We all know Manny Ramirez did PEDs multiple times. He's never going to get in the Hall of Fame. Fernando Rodney had a really, really interesting career. A lot of ups, a lot of downs. His career spanned, I think, 20 years or very close to 20 years. Had some really good years with the Mariners and the Rays. Ended up snaking out a World Series with the Nationals in 2019. Not a Hall of Famer, but a Hall of Very Good. A-Rod's another one, just like Manny Ramirez. Fantastic numbers. All world. Has won everything you can ever ask for, but multiple PED uses just kind of negates any chances he's going to have to get in the Hall of Fame. Now, Francisco Rodriguez, aka K-Rod, is a guy who really just doesn't get the love he deserves. He's a guy I would for sure vote for if I could. I don't know why closers and relievers don't get the love they deserve when it comes to Hall of Fame voting. I really, really don't. K-Rod is a top 5-6 closer of all time, especially when he retired. I know Kimbrel and Kenley Jansen have passed him up, I believe, at this point. He has 437 saves. What more do you want out of a guy? And he has a career ERA of 2.86. Now, do I think he's going to get into the Hall of Fame in 2025? No. Now, Jimmy Rollins is a very confusing case to me. Some great accolades, pretty decent numbers, but is he a Hall of Famer? I don't know. When I think of Jimmy Rollins, I don't automatically think Hall of Famer. I just don't. Maybe if you're a Phillies fan, you do, and you're just like, yep, automatic, no doubt about it. But his OPS plus is 95. So he's 5 points less than the average ball player over a career span, which I just wouldn't think that of Jimmy Rollins. Even if I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, you think his OPS plus would be over 100. Who knows? I don't think Rollins will get in 2025, but his case can be made over the coming years. Now, CC Sabathia, I think, will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now, do I think he deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Famer? That could be argued a bit because his numbers are very comparable to Andy Pettitte's, but Sabathia doesn't have the PED ties that Pettitte does, so Sabathia is going to get in. What is there to say about Ichiro that hasn't been said already? He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, bar none. Over 3,000 hits when he came over here at age 27, which is wild. Between his career in Japan and the States, he has over 4,000 hits. Simply put, Ichiro is great. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer and will be a Hall of Famer in 2025. Our next guy up on the Hall of Very Good, or the Hall of What Could Have Been, is Troy Tulowitzki. Now, I'm not going to take away anything from Tulowitzki. He had a very, very good career that was just derailed by injuries. But when you really look at his stats for his career, I'm really surprised he's even on this ballot. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but when you look at his stats, you just kind of like, oh, that's all he did in his career. But again, injuries really did hurt him. Tulo is definitely a guy I thought would have at least 1,500 career hits. And alas, he is a Hall of Very Good and Hall of What Could Have Been, but definitely not a Hall of Famer. Now, Chase Utley is a guy I go back and forth on if he's a Hall of Famer or not. He had a solid career. He compares well against other second basemen. But in saying that, if like Utley gets in over Jeff Kent, what are we doing? Is he a Hall of Famer? Is he not? I think he's a guy you can argue for Hall of Fame or Hall of Very Good. And in saying that, I don't think he's going to get in the Hall of Fame in 2025, but who knows? No point to spend much time on this one. Omar Vizquel is not going to be a Hall of Famer. Character clause and off the field issues after he retired really just killed any chance he had to get in the Hall of Fame. He will not be a Hall of Famer. Billy Wagner is a Hall of Famer and should be a Hall of Famer, and I hope he gets in 2025. It is his last year on the ballot. I can't believe it's taken the writers so long to get Billy Wagner in the Hall of Fame. 422 career saves, a career ERA of 2.31. One of the best closers ever to do it. How is he not in the Hall of Fame already? He deserves to be in, and just the lack of love that closers and relievers get is just beyond me. Now, David Wright is another guy who had a Hall of Fame trajectory, but injuries derailed any chance he had. Yeah, he still had some really good numbers. He falls into the Hall of very good, but him not being able to play another 3 to 5 years just kind of killed any chances he had. It is sad, but still, he got paid lots of money to play baseball, and he's going in the Hall of very good, but not Hall of Fame. And okay, another one that I'll just be honest, I'm surprised he's even on the ballot, not to be mean, but Ben Zobrist, really? The utility guy for 5 different ball clubs is on here. I don't think Ben Zobrist is going to be a Hall of Famer. He had a really good career, belongs in the Hall of very good of utility players, but not a Hall of Famer. So with that said, my final 2025 Hall of Fame ballot predictions is going to be CC Sabathia, first ballot Hall of Famer, Ichiro Suzuki, first ballot Hall of Famer, and I think Billy Wagner will get in on his last year of the ballot. And everyone else falls into 3 different categories of not being a Hall of Famer, that gray area of there's debate to be had, but we need to look into the numbers a bit more, or they use PEDs. So that's why I'm sticking with the 3 that I picked. Now, if I was voting, I probably would expand it a little bit more. And roughly speaking, I would probably go with K-Rod also. And then you can make the arguments for Jimmy Rollins, Bobby Abreu, Carlos Beltran, Felix Hernandez, Torrey Hunter, and Andrew Jones. But again, all those guys kind of fall into the gray area for me. So I would have to really dig into the numbers a little bit more there, but that's just off the top of my head. And there you have it. Those are my 2025 Hall of Fame predictions. I gave my thoughts on it. I gave my thoughts on what the writers are probably going to do and who's going to get in 2025. And with that said, who do you think is going to get in on the 2025 Hall of Fame ballot? Let me know it down in the comment section below. And while you're down there, if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel, that'd be greatly appreciated. Till next time, guys, have a great day. Thanks for watching.